วัสดีค่ะขอต้อนรับทุกท่านนะคะเข้าสู่งาน Startup Thailand and Innovation Thailand Expo 2020 นะคะดิฉันฮันนี่ชลพรรษา นุเรล่าค่ะรับหน้าที่เป็นพิธีกรในเวทีของฟอรัมตลอดทั้ง 4 วันนี้เลยนะคะก็ขอบคุณทุกท่านที่รับชมผ่านทางออนไลน์ของเรานะคะกับงานยิ่งใหญ่ที่เกิดขึ้นในปีนี้ระหว่างวันที่ 1 ถึง 4 กันยายนนะคะในรูปแบบของ Virtual Event หรือว่าการจัดงานในรูปแบบเสมือนจริงนั่นเองค่ะงาน Startup Thailand Innovation Thailand Expo 2020 นั้นก็จัดโดยสำนักงานนวัตกรรมแห่งชาติองค์การมหาชนกระทรวงการอุดมศึกษาวิทยาศาสตร์วิจัยและนวัตกรรมนะคะโดยร่วมมือกับหน่วยงานพันธมิตรมากมายทั้งภาครัฐภาคเอกชนภาคการศึกษาและภาคสังคมทั้งในประเทศและต่างประเทศกว่าต้องบอกว่าเยอะมากนะคะกว่า133องค์กรพันธมิตรแล้วก็400หน่วยงานค่ะร่วมกันจัดงานในครั้งนี้ขึ้นนะคะเพื่อที่จะแสดงศักยภาพของนวัตกรรมต่างๆแล้วก็จะช่วยขยายโอกาสทางธุรกิจให้กับเหล่าสตาร์ทอัพนวัตกรรมผู้ประกอบการ SME นะคะแล้วก็ผู้ที่สนใจการเชื่อมโยงร่วมกันทุกภาคส่วน
arranging or participating in this event. We receive the cooperation from the people who are in mice industry, and they are all the leaders in the mice organization, mice activities, in order to synergize all these virtual events. And today is the first day of the Innovation Thailand Expo 2020. We have many interesting topics that cover the whole days in the form of transforming healthcare, tourism, and also including the touchless economy and trust society. For the whole day, we have 8 themes or subjects that are very interesting. I would like to invite you to stay with us for the whole day. So for this morning, for the first sessions of today, we were talking how corporate works with the startups nowadays. That is to open the perspective and also the directions of doing the co-creation businesses with the big company like a central retail also organized together with the startups in order to create the new startups to develop the economy. So the co-host with the central retail corporations and also the central tech is here. He will present to us and give us the ideas. This person is the Chief Technology Officer of the Central Retail. It's going to take about 25 minutes. And then after that, we will talk at the end of the sessions. So I would like you to
now, moving on to our very first session of the day, which is how corporate works with startups nowadays. Our speaker is the Chief Technology Officer of Central Retail Corporation Public Company Limited, Mr. Axel Winter. How are you, sir?
Very
So take it away.
Okay, thank you very much for the introduction. Very kind of NIA to have me here as a primer. I have some thoughts on how actually startups and corporates can coexist. I think co-create from the introduction, I think it's a very good word, because both organizations specifically nowadays have their own set of challenges. Now, if you think about what happened during the COVID lockdown and as it started ramping up, of course, very unfortunate events, people had to start thinking about how they work from home, and you can see that both startups and corporate had to change the way they're doing business. Find out also larger organizations for like the technology team for us, how do we work together offline, but also how do we bond, right? How do we onboard new people once they come in? We hire, so we hired throughout the lockdown and onboarded people. How do you do that, right? How do you hand over a laptop and then give them introductions if you're actually not supposed to meet somehow? So it was a bit of a longer period to find out. And of course also business dimensions keep changing. What is important for customers, be consumers, be it corporate customers, is changing. And then it's very important for organizations, for corporations, and for startups to be extremely flexible to execute. So as you can see, some of the research which has been done, organizations who started before the lockdown came into place to digitize, of course they have been well off, but organizations who much later came into game or maybe just during the lockdown started to think about how digitization could work, they of course had immense challenges. And this is not this is globally a global phenomenon. It's not only about Thai organizations, or it's everywhere in the world. When I talk to CEOs, CTOs, CEOs of companies in the US and Europe, across Asia, they all had the same experience. You can see here in the middle of the slide, there's some feedback I got from my global network of colleagues and friends of what they feel has been on the uptake since COVID came into full force. And there's illustrious points there. Some of them relate to gaming. Of course, people use their free time, they recreate differently. Netflix definitely had a bit of an upswing. Cloud services, remote services like Zoom, and I thought it was quite interesting to see that some of the companies like Facebook and Google very rapidly improved their video conferencing technology to compete more effectively with companies like Zoom, who had a phenomenal run. But also others, agri-tech, education, remote educations, e-commerce, of course, which plays a big role for us, and many others. So you can see that there is really an impact, and the timing is becoming so much more important for corporations as for startups. We are all being judged in the same way by our customers in the end. And if we're moving forward, if you think about this from a technology angle, ultimately I'm the CTO, so I have an important viewpoint on that, and it's a bit of guiding principle. What we can see is over the last 2-3 years, and it's definitely cemented now with COVID in 2020, that the global, I call them super scalers, which is Amazon, Alibaba, and Microsoft and other companies, they are really the ones who serve almost every company on the planet now. They are the ones who define what technology strategy is, where R&D investments are going to go. I read that Amazon is spending about $20 billion a year on R&D. I'm not sure it's entirely true, but I'm sure it's a number close to that, and I believe the others will be in a similar range. So you can see that are not the traditional IT vendors, nor traditional corporations like banks or retailers. It's really these type of companies which define now how technology and technology strategy moves forward and serving the globe with their ideas and inventions. Part of that is also open source technology. These organizations themselves are big contributors to open source, and so are others. I know in Thailand there are also many contributors to open source. We contribute a tiny bit, and I know NECTEC and others and in the NIA have been trying to help the community quite a lot as well. Open source is still one of the very unique ways of technology strategy and new concepts and new development methods to come to life and evolve itself. So even the superscalers, the biggest tech companies on the planet, are looking at it. So should corporates, and so do need to have countries thinking about this mix of open source, superscalers, and try to align their digital infrastructure investment into it. Not trying to copy, not trying to say, hey, I want my own a cloud company, but really trying to align with where the market and the biggest companies on the planet in terms of tech are going. So the logos are not complete probably, but I think it's the most fairest representation I could think about, both from a consumer angle and from a let's say technology framework angle. Now, when we then look, we all know that certain technologies are critical for both startups and corporates now, which are driving the digital transformation and new digital products every day. So obviously cloud, mobile, data analytics, and AI. So there's nothing new here. But I think what has been underrepresented in the past, and where we are seeing tremendous amount of innovation and startup activity happening, is in these three areas you see on the screen. Internet of Things is being one of them, is where you we're finding bridges between the physical and the digital world. So that could be managing electricity more efficiently through sensors. That can be, let's say, remote sensors for cars to detect a collision and so on, and informing other third parties. I saw in the wearable tech, the new Samsung watch, it has a fall down sensor. So if you have a stroke or something, it can automatically alert your next of kin. And so these type of technologies are critical. And in Thailand, Silicon Craft, for example, is a prime partner in that space. Just IPO'd recently with very interesting developments and also its own research. So wearable tech is another one. I have seen and read articles about, and I talked to some of my colleagues also in China. There are new wearable tech, as in masks, facial masks, which can hopefully at some point detect viruses, whether you have COVID or not, whether in your environment is COVID or not. And you'd have talked about watches, smart watches, which increasingly have health sensors, health check sensors built in. It's quite impressive. I saw the new Fitbit now is a stress sensor, and it can give you a stress ID. I haven't seen it, not tried it. It's just from the announcement, so it's curious to see how that works. Maybe in a meeting you can say, oh, I should stop the meeting now. I'm too stressed. Also managing, of course, people contacting each other and automatically alerting companies and organizations and individuals of maybe a virus outbreak. Now, blockchain API in Kafka is there are three technologies without explaining them in detail, but what they really do is driving a horizontal integration of the industry, and this is something which we see a lot, that there is in the consumer side for sure a play going on across, of course, e-commerce, retail as it is, payment services, lending services, also mobile data services and other technology plays across maybe say Facebook and Google and so on. I think there is these technologies are, I think we already seen quite a few startups. I think my old employer, Standard Chartered Bank, launched Nexus in a Nexus project in Indonesia to support this as bank as a service. We see in Europe that being big with players like Klarna Bank. We have a blockchain, we have multiple wallets and apps around that, allowing smart contracts, eKYC, to allow a shared identification and background check of consumers in the lending space in different countries now. So you can see that this is a industry integration across also industry verticals. So I would watch these three, not forget the others, but watch these three and see how organizations can make meaningful use of them. Now, what is the issue in startups and corporations are teaming up and working together? I think startups, what they do very well is both innovate on business models and technology at very high speed. That makes a good startup. So there is a depth of functionality, capability, and there's a depth of technology. Take UKA as an example, as a remote stress management application, where both you'd have technology, you have chat, you have video presenting, and data analytics on stress development in organizations and individuals, as well as connecting psychiatrists and psychologists to people. So you have a mix of tech and business model which drives new startup, new behavior, and there is a big uptake there. Now, what startups often challenge with, specifically in the early stages, is, of course, revenue generation is the cash flow, right? There are VCs, there are angel investors, but they can only be successful ultimately if they earn money at some point. Although some organizations defying that rule, but on average, at some point, shareholder value will need to be generated. That's their challenge, and they're having also challenges working with corporates, because corporates tend to be big and slow, but have a big IT budget, which can be spent on vendors or on startups. Equally, corporates prefer proven solutions over experimental solutions or ideas which they cannot fully understand the outcome of. And they need to test it first, which is a bit anti-corporate corporate behavior in many organizations. Not in all, but in many. Now, for us, what we have done is to trying to mix these two things, is to innovate from the ground, is to saying, hey, can we team with, in this case, AWS, and provide a service and a touch point for startups to work with us, and essentially co-create and co-innovate. For that purpose, we have set up a lab and a process which the colleagues from the business and technology team is actually reviewing proactively the startup space. People can come to us directly, new startups or more mature startups. And we also reach out to different organizations. And then if it's a very early stage startup, we would probably try to help them with our industry insight to see, is there an opportunity in the midterm or in the longer term to co-create something. Some of them maybe a bit more mature, they already have a certain set of capabilities, but they may still be lacking the ability to try it really out in the, let's say, as a productivity tool or with customers, end customers in the end. And here we can be a partner for short-term, medium-term type of projects. So typically it's a 5 to 6 to 8 weeks type of initiative where we're saying, hey, can we try out a piece of this tech and business model and see what our staff, our customers would do with this. And we have done that in the past, and we actually doing quite a number more. And of course, at some point is when there's a successful pilot, in a sense, we would then go into a deeper partnership. And that model is other organizations also use this model. I was just talking yesterday to the CTO of the innovation lab at Standard Chartered Bank, and they have a very similar approach to it. And it has yielded quite a bit of success for them. They have experienced this over the last few years. Now we are in collaborations with organizations, as I said, like Silicon Craft or UCA and others. I think what is important here is to have a regular report, to have a regular intervals, and have a team which can engage with startups and in the community on a regular basis. Can be in Thailand, can be in the region or globally, of course, right? Now, some of the technology we are trying out in our internal labs, you might not see that there is a business use case in the end, but for example, we have started an app which we call CTO Coin for short. It's really an application which is geared to employer rewards. So if you come to the office, you check in the office, you get you earn some points. You go to meetings, you help a coworker, you get some points, and you can collect them and you can use them. The idea is to use them with partners. Can be a coffee shop, can be within the organization, can be our internal vending machines. So it's kind of an internal way of higher engagement, driving engagement. We have since COVID connected facial recognition scan, so when you check in, you can just use your face with your camera, as you can imagine, and it does automatically a thermal check, so we can also track if someone has fever. Of course, we would recommend them not to come to the office. We can see who was in the office at the same time, and so have a variety of services and benefits for the organization. It's blockchain based, and so we have combined and bundled a number of startup activities in this to try it out, and it's run over a couple of months now, and we are kind of determining now if we should expand this further across the organization. Another example, another good example is Smart Shelf. There's a lot of technology is to better understand what happens in the store. So of course, they're in the news. Sometimes you see Amazon Go and maybe JD Boundarless and other insights of saying, hey, how can you fully automate a store? How can there be a checkout without staff being there? But that's not the only thing which is interesting. Is, hey, can we understand if a shelf is empty, if automatically, or people have moved products around in shelves, as in customers or staff, and can we track this somehow? What is the technology for that, right? Can we find things which are similar to an online conversion rate actually also in store with video cameras and other sensory technology? And again, it's another teaming with different startup and tech players, actually in Thailand in this case. So there are more ideas which we are working it, and which we are trying out, and I think the collaboration is becoming very deep with us and the startup community, and we're interested to do more. And I hope if any of you who are watching this are working with startups or having a startup, please feel free to reach out with an idea which might make sense for us. Likewise, for other corporations, I'd encourage them to do the same and use some of that, let's say, IT budget or digitization transformation budget to also work with kind of new startups and kind of a new way of driving rapid digitalization. This is what organizations need nowadays. I thank you for your attention and the time given. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer. I hope I don't have to sing and dance. That'd be terrible for all of you.
It'll be interesting. All right, Mr. Axel, thank you very much for the presentation. It was a pleasure to have you here joining us. เอาละค่ะและนั่นก็คือการบรรยายโดยประธานเจ้าหน้าที่ฝ่ายเทคโนโลยีของบริษัท Central Retail Corporation จำกัดมหาชนคุณ Axel Winter นั่นเองนะคะเดี๋ยวช่วงหน้าจะมีอีกหนึ่งประเด็นที่น่าสนใจนะคะท็อปิกต่อไปจะเริ่มในเวลา 12:15 นาทีนะคะหรือว่าเที่ยง 15 นั่นเองกลับมาเจอกันนะคะในหัวข้อที่เกี่ยวกับการติดตามสุขภาพผู้สูงวัยและความปลอดภัยช่วงโควิดนะคะเดี๋ยวช่วงนี้พักกันสักครู่ค่ะ
The topic on remotely monitor seniors' health and safety during COVID-19. We'll be back shortly.
Great. Thank you.